Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Lunch Hour Sports Podcast. Here with your hosts, Jacob Smedley,
Sam Betts,
Justin Reedhammer,
Peter Almirante,
and Nathan Romanoff.
Our topics today include the NBA postseason is back. Sam has the lists of the seedings for now. There's a few days left in the season, and we'll take it up all the way through the finals. Our picks to go all the way with the playoffs coming up in just about a month, and the NFL draft is right around the corner. We're keeping the yearly tradition and laying out our picks for the top 10 players in the NFL draft. Now here's Sam Betts. Sam, we haven't talked about the NBA in a while. A lot has happened. We've come to the end of the season. Some teams have already punched their ticket to the postseason. What's going on in the NBA, Sam?
Yeah, Jake, wanted to switch it up a little bit, kind of go back to the NBA. And we're not talking about the NBA Cup, people. We're talking about the NBA Finals. We're going to be looking at playoff picture, teams that are going to be in it. We're going to look at how some of the teams stack up against each other. And I was looking earlier in the injuries, man. Kind of looking at the IL there. Some teams are going to have some issues for sure, but we'll kind of see how that plays out. And then also we're going to do final prediction. We're going to see what our squad kind of thinks about the final two, who's going to end up in the finals, and who's going to win. Jake, what do you want to start with? Do you want to start with the Eastern Conference, the conference that's definitely not really the greatest, or do you want to start with the Western Conference, who's definitely more superior? But I'm willing to talk about either.
Let's start with the Eastern Conference, because I mean there's some similarities to the past few years, but there's also a surprise team that has had a really good season that I feel like you're gonna mention them. I kind of know where you're going, Sam, but let's start with the East first. Let's start with the East.
So the number one team right now, and I think this is the surprise team you're talking about, is the Cleveland Cavaliers at 64-17. We usually, since the LeBron age, they had a lot of really good success, like winning championships and stuff. But other than that, they've had a couple decent seasons being able to make it to the playoffs. But I mean, they've exploded so far. Kind of going looking at the team right now, Darius Garland. I mean, I remember when him and Colin Sexton were on the team together, and Cleveland kind of had to choose like which one they wanted to pick out of these first round point guard picks, and they chose Darius Garland, and he surely hasn't disappointed at all. 20.6 points, averaging around 6.7 assists per game, and is also shooting 47% from the field and also 40% from three. I mean, he's a really good young leader for this team. They also have Donovan Mitchell, which I'm going to go to those injuries right now. He's out kind of with an ankle injury since April 7th, but I mean, still a very important leader to this team. He's averaging 24, five rebounds. He's shooting 44% from the field. I mean, he's definitely the leader for this team overall. They also got guys like Max Strutz, DeAndre Hunter. We also got Jared Allen, the product from the Nets from a couple years ago. He's still staying strong, 13 points, averaging about 10 rebounds, a double-double, and he's shooting 70% from the field. So this is definitely the surprise team for the East, I'd say. Didn't expect them to be right at the top, but I mean, they're making a very good push to be a top contender for the East.
So that was not the surprise team that I had in mind. We might get to them soon, Sam. You might have to guess again. But the Cavs, yeah, I think they've had a great season. I think coming off of last year, the disappointment in the playoffs, there's a lot of debate of if Garland or Mitchell was on the move, if they were going to break up Mobley and Allen. This season, they've really put it together. I think a lot of it goes to Kenny Atkinson as well. The league kind of wrote him off as a coach after his time with the Nets. He spent some time as an assistant with the Golden State Warriors, and I think he really unlocked how to manage the minutes with Garland and Mitchell, staggering minutes with them, staggering minutes with Mobley and Allen, so you have those dynamic players on the floor at the same time. And the contributors that they have got, from Ty Jerome averaging 12 and a half points per game, the a hero for Virginia in college. He's carved out a real nice role on this bench. And DeAndre Hunter, just an excellent move at the trade deadline, getting him from the Hawks. He was scoring nearly 20 points off the bench for Atlanta. They bring him in. He's a guy that they can put in the starting lineup, can come off the bench, can provide wing depth, especially will go into some of these other teams that have great forward play in the East. They have really set themselves up, and I'm really excited to see if the Cavs can, get to Eastern Conference Finals this year and even beyond.
Yeah, Jake, I want to try to now. I want to try to kind of get this surprise team, and I'm kind of looking, and we see kind of like our usual people. We see the Celtics, who are the defending champions, of course. We got the New York Knicks. Is it the Detroit Pistons?
It is the Detroit Pistons, Sam. There you go. Detroit basketball.
All right. Well, here, now that I guessed it, let's talk about them. The Detroit Pistons are 44 and 37 right now. They really have a young squad that's kind of coming together, kind of coming out of the doldrums of last year. Jake, how many games did they lose? Was it like 50, 60? I think it was up into the 60s, right?
I know it was high. I know they also had it was like a 21 game losing streak, something like that. They did have like a record setting. There's the famous press conference of Cade where he's like, I think we're right there. That's really, a great starting point now where he is really putting this team on his back. He's having a career season. And my old friend and Sixers fans' old friend Tobias Harris, the playoff animal, now leading this team the way he's playing. Jalen Duren, they have the veteran, the youth mix. They've nailed their draft picks. I'm super excited. I don't know if they'll win a series, but I know that they're going to be very competitive in the postseason. Glad to see Detroit basketball back, Sam. It's great.
Yeah, I mean, Cade Cunningham has definitely taken the leadership role of this team, having 26 points, averaging 9 assists, and also 46% from the field there. You also have some really good veteran leadership on this team. Dennis Schroeder kind of coming in as a backup point guard. Tim Hardaway Jr. and Malik Beasley, those guys have been on some really good NBA teams for a while. Ajuar Thompson really still kind of trying to find his footing in the NBA, but he's at the small forward position, 10 points, 5 rebounds, 53% from the field. Hopefully he kind of picks it up a little bit. Tobias Harris, averaging 13 points, really being overpaid, but that's another story for another time. Jalen Duren, 11 points. Hopefully Isaiah Stewart doesn't really cause any other commotions for this team still, but definitely a team with a lot of spunk to it. I hope, like you said, I hope they're able to kind of go far, kind of see how far this team is able to kind of go in against a lot of these veteran teams who have been in the playoffs for a long time. We're kind of bouncing around a bit. We got Boston. They're the defending champions, as I mentioned before. But the injuries, oh my gosh. Drew Holiday, Al Horford, Kristaps Porzingis, Jason Tatum, and Derek White. Now, Jason Tatum is out just kind of for rest, so is Kristaps. But I mean, Jalen Brown, too. I mean, a lot of these guys decided to get injured, I guess, on April 12th, as that's when they have the date here. So I'm sure a lot of them are also kind of resting too, preparing for the playoffs ahead, but hopefully a lot of them can come back right now, or you're going to have Peyton Pritchard, Sam Hauser, and Drew Peterson and Torrey Craig to kind of come out with a lineup here. But I don't really have out of as long as these injuries aren't really too serious, which I don't really think a lot of them are. I haven't seen any like news reports about them being out for an extended period of time. I'm sure a lot of it is just rest before the playoffs, but we're going to see if the defending champions can kind of come back out and show what defending champions do and see if they can get the repeat.
Yeah, very interested to see again the Celtics. Surprisingly, I think didn't have the best record in the conference, the one seed. But yeah, I'm not too worried about the injuries. They've been there. They done that last year. They have the talent across the board. I'm very excited to see them maybe against a Cleveland, another rematch against New York if it comes to that. There's a lot of good teams in here, but right now I think they should be the favorite. I know Cleveland has the best record, and they played very well this season. But Boston coming into the season was the favorite in the East, and even though they're the two seed, I still think, looking at these teams, they're a team that, what, I feel confident that they can get the job done in the postseason. So I'm not worried. I think Boston is going to be just fine when the postseason comes around.
The reason why I was talking about the East is that the next team is the New York Knicks, and they're 10 games behind Boston right now. They're 50 and 31. Knicks, I mean, they're also they're not really dealing with a lot of injuries, but I mean, OG Anunoby's out with a thumb injury. Jalen Brunson's out with an ankle injury right now. Karl Anthony Towns is out with a knee. But I mean, this team is still kind of one that's still looking to just kind of get a little bit over, continue down the line here for these playoffs. Jalen Brunson's been really great though. 26 points, 7.3 assists, 48% from the field. Definitely taken that leadership role. But I mean, Miles Bridges too, in the shooting guard. This guy, I really like the way he plays ball. 17 points, 50% from the field. I mean, I just kind of like him. He's a really good defender too, with that long wingspan of his. Just really like to see him continue to have some success and maybe even help this team move on. Josh Hart, looking at him, he's always kind of like a glue guy. He's a very big vibes guy as well, but 13 points, 9.6 rebounds, 52.5% from the field. Hopefully he kind of comes back from his injury. OG, big Raptors guy. Really miss him for this Raptors team, but he still got 18 points, 47% from the field. Hope to see him have some success. I don't know. This Knicks team is kind of always interesting. They don't really ever make it too far in the playoffs, but each year always comes with its new wild card, so we'll see.
Yeah, very interested to see how this Knicks squad does last year, falling to the Pacers, dealt with a lot of injuries. I think their starting lineup is better. You look at Towns, you look at Brunson, you look at their defenders with Hart. I'm again intrigued with their depth. I think that's one of the biggest things. Tom Thibodeau loves to work his guys, loves to utilize them, heavy minutes. That's something that in the playoffs, those tight games, those long games, sometimes going to overtime, I mean, it can get tough, especially against other very good teams. They're 0-10, Sam, against the other top three teams in both leagues. So that is concerning. But I put them in that tier below Boston and Cleveland right now.
Yeah, and we'll round out with the last top two teams here because I mean we have the Orlando Magic at 41 and 40 in the seventh spot. We have Atlanta in the eighth spot at 39 and 42. We have Chicago at 38 and 43, and then we have the Heat in the 10 spot at 37 and 44. And those four teams are going to be playing in the playoff or the play-in tournament to see who's going to get in it for that seventh and eighth seed, and who are probably going to play the Cleveland and Boston, and will probably get destroyed by them. Not really kind of looking to just going to kind of glance over them kind of, and then the next team is the Raptors at 30 and 51. They have no chance of making the play-in tournament, unfortunately. But we'll go over Indiana right now. They're 49 and 32, coming in at the fourth seed in the East. And again, injuries, Jake. I know that Tyrese Halliburton was dealing with some back issues. I know Miles Turner was injured for a little bit. Pascal Siakam was out for a little bit. Hopefully those guys are coming back too. But I mean, Pascal, another Toronto guy, just 20 points, 7 rebounds, 51% from the field, 38.9% from three. But Tyrese Halliburton, I would say, is probably one of the main backbones of this team. 18 points, 9.2 assists, and 47% from the field. Looking at Miles Turner, the longtime center for this team, still looking to make a deep playoff run and get himself a ring. 15 points, 6 rebounds, 48% from the field. And I mean, this is kind of one of these wild card teams. The Pacers have had some not so great luck in the playoffs, unfortunately. The Paul George era was probably some of their best basketball that they played in recent years. Um, again, we're kind of going to get into more of the powerhouses once we get into the West. But kind of looking at Milwaukee too, if we go over to them, they're 47 and 34, and they're dealing with a lot of injuries. Jake, I'll show you this injury list. You could write a novel with that. Oh my. I mean, for the viewers who are on Spotify, you might not be able to see this, but all but two of them are April 12th. So, which is today. They were just placed on the injury list today, at the time of this recording. So, oh my. A couple of them are rest, like Bobby Portis, Brooke Lopez. Those guys are just resting. They're not really injured, but I mean, Giannis is with a shoulder, Torian Prince with a knee, Kyle Kuzma ankle, Gary Trent with an ankle, Kevin Porter Jr. with a wrist. I mean, the list goes on. And this team's kind of had some interesting issues kind of in the past. Damian acquired Lillard, and I mean he's obviously a star. He's got 24 points, and he's shooting 44% from the field. But they've had some ups and downs since kind of winning the championship in 2021, just kind of trying to find the glue between a lot of these guys trying to win games. They acquired Kyle Kuzma. He's got 14 points. He's shooting 43%, but still just kind of trying to put it all together again and go on another great run. Obviously, Giannis, an MVP caliber player, he's averaging 30 points and 11 rebounds, and he's shooting 60% from the field. But hopefully, within either this year or recent years, they kind of try to put a lot of it together and kind of you just keep pushing forward and get back to that 2021 glory day.
Yeah, I think you look at the injuries again. You mentioned Indiana and Milwaukee. We'll see how both of those teams, are right now. They are matching up in that 4-5 matchup in the rematch from last year. Got a few already that are kind of taking shape potentially. So yeah, very interested to see how they play in the postseason in the Eastern Conference. Sam, I know you said we were going to get to the West. Are there any teams that are really, standing out to you there? Of course, Oklahoma City with their incredible year, 67 and 14. You've got Houston, and then the Lakers in there three, but after that, nothing's really clinched. You've got four teams battling for 4 or 5 spots there with the potential to play in. What are your kind of overall thoughts on this Western Conference?
Well, I think Golden State's really had an opportunity to rebound here. They're 48 and 33, and I know last season they kind of struggled to kind of put really anything major in the season together. But I mean, Steph Curry's kind of found his shot. He's at 24 points. He's shooting 44 percent from the field and 39% from three. They've got they have Gary Payton again. Moses Moody is kind of securing that small forward spot. I mean, Jimmy Butler, they acquired Jimmy Butler, and he's at 17 points. He's shooting 50% from the field, but he's kind of helped turn this team around a little bit, just kind of giving them a new fire, especially after all the debate with the Heat and all that drama of just kind of being able for him to find a new team. And I mean, you still have Draymond Green, the glue. He's kind of the glue guy for this squad. But I mean, the Warriors have kind of been able to find some new life in them again, especially after last season. So hopefully they make a deep playoff run. The Minnesota Timberwolves, another team, they're in the seventh spot right now. Looking for them to find some new life, and the Memphis Grizzlies, just kind of looking for them to also make some deep playoff runs with John Morant, Desmond Bain, Zach Edey. Yeah, hopefully we gonna get some mix-ups here in the West, and everything's still pretty close too, except for the like for the 9 and 10 seeds for the playoff tournament. Dallas kind of hanging on there by a thread, and will probably still make the play-in tournament, but we'll kind of see how they kind of shape up. The Houston Rockets, I'll make one last final comment because I know my time's kind of dwindling here, according to Justin, which is okay. But the Houston Rockets, I mean, they're 52 and 29. They're a lot. I mean, in the Oklahoma City Thunder are 67 and 14. So they're still a ways back from the Thunder, but yet still in the two seed. They've kind of been able to put together a pretty good playoff roster so far. Fred VanVleet, he's dealt with some injuries, but again, another former Raptors guy. I like mentioning my Raptors guys. Jalen Green, definitely been pretty much, I'd say, the team captain so far. The young player, really a lot of talent, a lot of shooting prowess. Definitely a charismatic leader, I'd say. So 21 points, shooting 42% from the field. But a lot of other really good talent still on this team. Amen Thompson, 14 points, 50, shooting 55% from the field. He's definitely kind of excelled a little bit this season, being able to grow a little bit after a really hard fresh starting season, freshman season, but still kind of putting in some pretty good work. I want Sengun, Alprin Sengun. He's definitely been another young star on this team who's come up, has a lot of prowess. He's at 19 points, 10 rebounds, shooting 49% from the field. I mean, the Rockets have a really good young team, and I'd like to see them go far, even maybe even getting to the Western Conference Finals, if that's on the table for them. I mean, I kind of like to see them go far.
Yeah, so Sam, before we move on, you said picks for the finals. What are you thinking right now, East West?
Honestly, this is tough because looking at the West, Oklahoma City Thunder's so dominant. They're such a dominant team. And I mean, like Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, I mean, he's an MVP caliber player, to be honest with you. 30 he has 32 points, six assists, shooting 51% from the field. I don't know. It's going to be tough. I think for the West, I'm going to have to go OKC. I think this year. This is their year to kind of go to the championship, go to the NBA Finals. From the Eastern Conference side, even though like the Cavaliers have had a really good season so far, I think Boston. I think it's going to be the OKC Thunder, and I think it's going to be Boston in the finals. And to win, that's I'm going to go OKC Thunder. I think the Thunder take it this year.
Okay, all right. Anyone else want to chime in? I know I have my thoughts. Nate looks like he wants to get into.
I think the East is pretty simple. I don't see any other team making the finals besides the Cavs or Boston. And from what I've seen this year, I think that Boston has had Cleveland's number. And I think if they meet in the playoffs, I think that the experience Boston has is going to overcome Cleveland and their amazingly talented young roster that they have there. So, as much as it hurts me to say, I think Boston returns to the finals out of the East. The West is a bit harder. A lot of good teams in the West, very competitive, as we've said. I think I'm gonna ride with you, Sam. I'm gonna go OKC. They're inexperienced and young, but I think they've been far and away the best team in the West this year. And outside of that, personally, I would like to see them make it, as opposed to say a team like the Lakers. So I'm gonna go OKC. I would have shouted out Denver, but Denver just fired their coach, so I don't think that Denver's got a chance. And I'd say Golden State's a dark horse. They're playing really good. But I'm still going OKC in Boston in the final.
All right, to wrap things up, Nate, you brought up my team just a moment ago. I'm going with the Lakers and the Celtics, guys. I'm bringing in. This is the battle, the championships. I think it would be a lot of fun, though. Peter's hand is in his face. He is upset. He is distraught. But I am not going to trust the Thunder until I see it in the playoffs. Last year, they fell short against the Mavericks in the postseason. It was a tight series. They fell short. They're one of those teams. You guys all know them. The young teams that have a great regular season and have yet to put it together in the playoffs. And right now, I'm not going to trust them until they go to the finish line. If they get to the finals, that is great. I got to see it to believe it, gentlemen. That's where I'm at. So that's why I'm going to go with a team that has a Luka Doncic, that has a LeBron James, that has a good supporting cast, two guys that have been there and know how to get it done in the playoffs. So I think it's there. I can do the whole Shannon Sharp Lakers in 5. I can roll that out here, but I won't. Lakers, I think Celtics. I think that's a great series there. I think that goes 7. That would be my pick right now. But things can change. Like I said, it's fluid. So, speaking of fluid, the NFL draft is coming up. We've got players who are waiting to hear their name called. We're gonna be we're gonna call their name right now. Commissioner Godell is handing us the cards. We are announcing it to all of you. No, we are just making our predictions, and I'll hand it over to the prediction maker himself, Justin Reedhammer. Take it away, Justin.
One might call me the oracle with my percentage getting them right here, but as you mentioned, it is that time of year. In the NFL, it is time for the draft. Here we find out who the future stars are going to be and who the future busts are going to be. So let's just dive right in. We know the draft order, so let's get to it. With the first overall pick, the Tennessee Titans are going to select quarterback Cam Ward out of Miami. They need a quarterback, my guy. All right, it's that simple. They have Will Levis. He's not really panned out, and the rest of their team needs work. You don't end up at the number one spot if your team doesn't need work. But let's get the most important position done, and I think Cam Ward is probably the best that this draft has to offer.
Nobody trades. I agree with Justin here. I think that Cam Ward is going to go number one here. I actually want to shout out Pat McAfee's podcast, because I was listening to his podcast at work the other day, and they mentioned that there's some breaking news that Shedeur Sanders canceled his workout with the Tennessee Titans and a mutual canceling of that showing of that workout. I think it was this past week. So that kind of tells me and kind of like gives me the message that they're moving away from the Shedeur Sanders situation. Shedeur is also not very showing much interest in the Tennessee organization. It'll be interesting to see a new coaching staff, how that works with Mike Vrabel being gone and on New England now. But I also have Cam Ward going number one.
Yeah, make that 3 for 3 here with me, gentlemen. I have Cam Ward going number one as well. As already been stated, the Titans need a quarterback. Will Levis just has not panned out there for the Titans. And in a QB class this year that is, to be quite frank, the weakest we've seen in quite some time, I think Cam Ward clearly, at least at this moment in time, is sticking out as the top QB in this draft class and somebody who has the talent that teams are looking for in a young quarterback to develop. So I believe that we can firmly say that Cam Ward is the number one pick.
Yeah, we're making it 4 for 4, guys. A clean sweep here. I'm gonna go Cam Ward as well to the Titans. I think that he gives you some running ability, gives you some pocket presence. Led a Miami team that really showcased offensively. Their defense not that great. They went a lot of 40 to 40, 45 to 43 game. A lot of high scoring affairs. But I think the tools are there. This is a situation where they have kind of complementary talent there with Tony Pollard, with Rico Dowdle, who they brought in, Calvin Ridley, a veteran wide receiver. It's not very barren. There are a little bit of pieces there that he can kind of get in and work with. I am concerned about that he did have some turnovers. He did have some multiple interception games. I think that's something that he's got to clean up. He's a playmaker. He looks for those home run shots. So I think he's going to have to realize, he can take the check down, take the passes over the middle, not go always for that home run hitting shot. But I think this is a home run pick for the Titans. I think they need to bring him in.
Yeah, we could actually make it a 5 for 5 if we bring in Cameron Whitney's drafts here. I also have his.
Oh.
Yeah, since he can't be here, he sent me his mock draft. He also has Cam Ward going. This time, we'll move to the second overall pick, the Cleveland Browns. They've got a lot of needs. They're a terrible organization. But at this position, they're going to select wide receiver / cornerback Travis Hunter out of Colorado, because I think he's personally the next best player in the draft, probably the best skill position player in the draft for sure. He's a guy that if they need corner, he can play corner, or if they need a receiver, he can play receiver. I don't see him playing both in the NFL. I really see him locking in on one. Teams don't typically play guys on offense and defense. It's just not something you do in the NFL. So I personally think he's going to be a solid receiver for that Cleveland Brown core that needs a boost.
But you can make an argument for Justin's case scenario here. Like Cleveland's been needing a young, fresh wide receiver. If Travis Hunter keeps playing wide receiver, which it seems like in his showcasings and stuff, he's been taking more wide receiver drills rather than DB repetitions. But could you make a case for Abdul Carter to go here? I mean, the Browns have been struggling defensively in the middle of the defense. In that middle area where the defensive ends typically can linger, but also Abdul Carter. I mean, Sam, Justin, Jake, Nate, you all know Abdul Carter is a monster. He could break through O lines. I mean, he kind of reminds me of a little bit of a reincarnation of Micah Parsons when he played for Penn State. I know they wore the same number, but I mean, they just break through. He just breaks through O lines like it's nobody's business. I mean, my gut here tells me that they'll go with Travis Hunter for the Browns, but I would not be surprised if we saw an Abdul Carter pick.
I am going to go out on that limb. I do have Abdul Carter going number 2 to the Browns, personally. And simply put, in my opinion, he is the best player in this draft. I think that he's the most NFL ready. I mean, he was a dominant force in college for Penn State. He was a driving force on that defense that got us to the college football playoff semifinals this past season. I mean, you saw what he did, injured even. Basically on one hand,
One hand,
and he was still disruptive that whole game against Notre Dame in the semifinal. So I think that with him there, his talent, you can't overlook it. I know the Browns need a lot. I know they need a receiver. But you have the chance to go get one of the best defensive prospects we've seen in recent years and put him on a D-line that will still include Myles Garrett. I mean, can you imagine having those two rushing from, both ends of the line? It'd be insane. So I just, purely because of Penn State, and I think he is the best player in the draft, I'm going to go with him at 2 to the Browns. I could see them going with a Travis Hunter. I could see it 100%, but I got to stick to my guns and go Abdul Carter here.
Yeah, I think there's multiple different ways that they could go. One way that I don't think is going to happen, but what if the Titans surprise us all, don't pick a QB, or maybe don't even pick Cam Ward, pick, Sam Shadur Sanders hype over there, and, Cam Ward is sitting there at 2. If he's sitting there, you take him. But
Absolutely.
that's a situation. Yeah, but again, with Hunter versus, it sounds like that's kind of where we're sitting here. Ward's off the board, Hunter, Carter, you guys both, all of us so far have made some great arguments. I'm with Justin picking Hunter right here. I don't know, well, Peter as well, but I know he definitely made the case for Carter as well. He brought that to the table, so great job, Peter, and skimp you there. But I'm going with Hunter. I know, again, there's the whole debate listed some places as a wide receiver, some place as a QB. I'm right there with Justin. I think that he's going to settle somewhere. I was even thinking if he wants to stay at corner, he could be that Patrick Peterson type player. I know you guys remember he also, Patrick Peterson returned punts and kicks for the Cardinals when he was first starting out. So he can, do that if he really wanted to. So I think they need another athletic player on the outside that brings that dynamic, game-changing aspect. I'm not taking away at all from Abdul Carter. He is a game changer at the front. He is by far the best defensive player if we're going to put Hunter in that wide receiver position, and not trying to discredit Carter. But I think Hunter, with the variability that he brings to the table, the juice that I think think he could bring to this Cleveland squad. That's why I have him going there. And, he can make that decision. The Browns can maybe, if they see Jerry Jeudy and see some of these other players, maybe they ask him, hey, can you be a lockdown corner next to Denzel Ward? And I think he maybe could take it and excel in it as well. So I have Travis Hunter going there.
Yeah, well, let's move into the third selection, although Cameron Whitney also went with Travis Hunter, if you were curious about that.
I'm on an
The third
island, baby.
selection, though,
I'm going out on a limb.
I'd love to see it.
We'll get there. We'll get there, Nate. But first, let's get to the New York Giants, who I have selecting quarterback Shedeur Sanders out of Colorado. Another big need for them is quarterback, and I think that they swing for the next best in the draft. But I could also see them taking somebody like Abdul Carter if they saw fit.
Didn't the Giants just sign 2 quarterbacks?
That is a fantastic point, Sam.
They did, and this is why. And Samuel Betts, thank you for bringing this up. I am reading off my list on my phone right now, and I have the Browns listed as Hunter/Carter, and then the Giants are listed Carter/Hunter. I have Abdul Carter going to the Giants if Hunter's picked for the Browns. If the Browns pick Carter, the Giants are going to get Hunter. So I'm going to flip it and say the Giants get Abdul Carter because, yes, the Giants just signed quarterbacks.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of basically the same thing as you for me, Peter, because I was, debating these two in this exact area. Obviously, I went Abdul too, so I have Travis Hunter going number 3 here to the Giants. The Giants also need a lot of help, and Travis Hunter can be that big star the Giants need to build around. He's a guy who's built for the spotlight, and going to New York City and playing for the Giants, I think would suit him well. I don't know as where they'd use him because they could use him at cornerback or receiver, both areas. But I think that he would be a very solid pick. And like Sam said, a great point. I don't think Shedeur will be picked purely because they just signed 2 quarterbacks, which to me tells me they're going to put off finding a long-term quarterback. I think they'll wait till future draft classes as we have some very talented quarterbacks coming through college still who will be in future classes. Drew Aller, Arch Manning, just to name a couple. So I think they're waiting for that, for a long-term quarterback. And for that reason, I don't think he'll go 3. That's why I have Travis Hunter going at 3, his Colorado teammate.
Nate, I think you're a mind reader because I was just thinking about Arch Manning in a Giants uniform following in Eli's footsteps. It could happen. Could happen. Yeah, I'm going, just like Peter doing the Abdul Carter pick here, doing the flip-flop. I am interested, though, they do have Kayvon Thibodeau, they do have Brett Burns still there. So, again, I could see, playing devil's advocate with Shedeur Sanders going there or going in another direction. They do have some veterans there that played well last season. It wasn't their fault that their defense was what it was. So interested, but again, Abdul Carter, like Nate went on about it with the second pick, the game changer that he is. I think if he's there, you just add to the talent depth that's there. He's a Micah Parsons level impact player. You can line him up on the outside. You can line him up on the inside. I think he again provides that game-breaking, game-changing play from the defensive end position. So if he's there for the Giants, throw the quarterback stuff to another draft or even later in this draft. This is a top player in this draft, going to be potentially a top player in this league at some point. You got to take it.
Yeah, Cameron Whitney also agrees with you guys. He has Abdul Carter going here. I was thinking more along the lines, since I'm on an island here, I was thinking along the Atlanta Falcons lines where, you get Kirk Cousins and then in the same draft, you also draft the future. So that's kind of what I'm seeing. But let's move on to our 4th pick. The New England Patriots are going to be up, and I have them, if available, selecting edge rusher Abdul Carter, or I have them selecting offensive tackle Will Campbell. This is the first time I've ever done this where I've had an or, because I'm not sure whether they're going to prioritize offensive line or defensive line. I think if I have to pick one, I'm selecting Abdul Carter here. But I'm just saying that there's a chance that they will also go with offensive tackle Will Campbell.
I think the Patriots focus on the O line here. They will protect Drake May. I think that they can build up that O line a little bit, progress Drake May a little more as a confident, comfortable quarterback, using Stephon Diggs and starting that more fluid rebuild per se. So I'm gonna say they select Will Campbell on the offensive line at pick number 4.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, Pete. I have Will Campbell, the offensive tackle out of LSU, going to the Patriots. Listen, they have their quarterback of the future, or at least who they see as the quarterback of the future in Drake May. And, what do you got to do with young quarterbacks? You have to protect them. It just makes the most sense to me for the Patriots to go offensive line here and prioritize protecting who they believe will be their franchise quarterback in Drake May. And Will Campbell simply is the best available offensive lineman in the draft. For me, straightforward, that's who they're taking.
Guys, I guess I'm on an island here. Again, I don't know what Cameron did here, but when's the last time the Patriots took a guy from Michigan? Do you guys know what happened there? I might be a little lost. He may have had a great career at quarterback, but I'm not going quarterback. I'm going on the D line, and I'm going for Mason Graham. He just feels like a Patriots player. Mike Vrabel's philosophy with the Titans when he was there was defensive line play. I could definitely see an offensive lineman. I see that as well. They just signed Milton Williams. I understand that, all right? But you bring another defensive lineman in there, you start to build out that front, you start to build out that depth. I think I like Mason Graham there. The Patriots, those great Patriot teams, they had toughness in the trenches offensively and defensively. I think they just signed Moses Morgan as well as a tackle on the outside. So that's why I have them going in the other direction. On the other line, I have Mason Graham going number 4 to the Pats.
Well, you're on an island because Cameron Whitney also agrees that it will be Will Campbell going to the New England Patriots.
Just like Nate, I'll be on that island.
But let's move to number 5, where the Jacksonville Jaguars will select, as you mentioned, defensive tackle Mason Graham out of Michigan. They need help in the interior specifically. They've had good edge pressure over the last few seasons, but they have been abysmal, allowing running backs to get through the middle, allowing quarterbacks to escape through the middle. So they need a guy to plug up those holes, and Mason Graham fits that description perfectly.
Justin, don't worry, you are no longer stranded on an island, because it is funny that Jake was talking about a Michigan man, because I have Mason Graham going to the Jacksonville Jaguars. I agree with Justin. I feel like the Jags struggle a lot with the interior D-line especially. And they could get their O-lineman offensive pieces later on in the draft. I think right now, their first round, they pick up a phenomenal Michigan D-lineman.
You know what it sounds like to me, boys? Sounds like we all looked at the same mock draft before we got on here. Because I also have defensive lineman Mason Graham going at 5 to the Jaguars. Not much to say here than what's already been said, but he is a beast on the defensive line. Probably the best interior defensive lineman in the draft. Unfortunately, he played for Michigan, but, some people can't be helped. However, he will be drafted pretty high, and I have him going here at 5 to the Jaguars.
Well, you guys, while I'm reading each other's minds, apparently I was thinking about Peter what he was thinking about before he came on. I'm going with some offensive line help for the Jaguars. Graham goes to the Patriots in my mind. You guys picked Will Campbell, but I'm going with Armand Membu here, the offensive tackle from Missouri. I don't know. I have him above Campbell in my mind right now. Of course, I didn't go and watch these guys at the Combine. That's just what I am feeling. Both are kind of interchangeable. But I think this is Campbell or Membu. Membu is my pick here for the Jags. Protection. Liam Cohen's coming in. He's establishing that new offense around Trevor Lawrence. Duval, I think he does that. They get the offensive lineman that they need here to protect Trevor Lawrence from those hits.
I know you're all dying to hear it. Cameron Whitney is with the Peanut Gallery. He has selected Mason Graham from Michigan. And up next, the Las Vegas Raiders with the 6th overall pick. In my opinion, I would never select this position this highly unless it was Saquon Barkley, but they will pick running back Ashton Jeanty out of Boise State. And he is the best running back in this draft. He deserves his flowers, and I think he's going to be a good piece for that Raiders group that really struggles with playmakers.
Justin, I also have Ashton Jeanty going to the Las Vegas Raiders. They acquired Raheem Mostert. I think that's a fairly good veteran to learn from in Mostert. I think that he can be a very good mentor for Ashton Jeanty. So I do have Ashton Jeanty going to the Raiders.
I guess we're just on the same wavelength, because I also have Ashton Jeanty going here at 6 to the Raiders. Basically just going to echo what Justin and Peter both said. He's the best running back in the draft, by far. He was a beast in college. It was a shame that he did not get the Heisman. He was in a strong Heisman pool this year, up against, of course, Travis Hunter. But he's just such a powerful back, and the Raiders, they need a running back. I mean, like you said, Pete, they have Raheem Mostert now, but he's older veteran guy. They need somebody young to go there and really bring some energy to that offense, and I think he'd be perfect. You have Jeanty, you have Brock Bowers, and you have Geno now. I think that offense is starting to look nice there in Vegas.
Guys, I'm building a fire here on my hill by myself over here. I'm not getting Peter's cues. I haven't said that in a while. I was off guard. But my pick is not Jeanty, as I'm still on this hill. The flag is planted, still here. No one is joining me. And I'm gonna go out in the left field. I'm walking the left field on my hill here. I'm leaving my marshmallows and hot dogs here on the fire. And I'm picking Jahdae Barron, the cornerback out of Texas, here for the Raiders. I think Barron is there. I know Johnson out of Michigan is there. I think they look on the defensive end. They've got Max Crosby. They put the investments in on offense. They signed Raheem Mostert. They signed Geno Smith. But Pete Carroll, one of his calling cards in Seattle was his Legion of Boom defense. He has Max Crosby there. I think you bring in a playmaking rookie on the perimeter in Jahdae Barron, who showcased his skills in the college football playoff for Texas. I think he comes in. They right now have a 4th-round pick that is their starting outside corner. So I'm going to bring them a cornerback to add to their defensive secondary in Jahdae Barron. They've always picked out-of-the-box picks, so that's why I'm going with this.
I think that this is like the 4th year in a row that you've mentioned the Legion of Boom when talking about Pete Carroll's team.
It's the hallmark, man. It's the hallmark.
And while me, Peter, and Nate were all gathered around singing the campfire song, somebody else is walking over to us, and who is it? It's Cam Whitney. He has also selected Ashton Jeanty.
What is this mock draft you guys looked at? It has to. I did not look at.
I had 4.
I looked at a few that were
okay.
different.
That's all I'm saying.
Okay. All right.
But let's move on to number 7. One of my least favorite teams, the New York Jets. Now I have a little caveat here because I did not have Will Campbell being selected earlier on. So if he is available, I believe the Jets will select offensive tackle Will Campbell out of LSU. But if for some reason he was gone, I will also want to shout out, I think that they might also select tight end Tyler Warren out of Penn State.
I don't have either of those guys going. I do have a little caveat pick here as well. So my 2 players I have are Jalen Walker as an edge for the Jets defense. I think that the Jets defense could use a little bit of refining. However, I can see the Jets going with Armand Membu. I hope I'm saying that correctly. I don't think that he'll get selected over Will Campbell, per se. But I also think he's another really good offensive lineman who can provide a lot of protection for Justin Fields in those situations. So I have either one of those guys being picked by the Jets. I think the Jets need to focus on defense for sure. So that being said, I could see Armin Membu or Jalen Walker being selected at the Jets' rightful spot.
Yeah, this was another tough spot here to pick for me. I looked at multiple, what experts were saying, and what it came down to for me was, personally, I don't want to see another one of my beloved Penn Staters have their time wasted in this terrible organization that is the New York Jets. So I did not put Tyler Warren down, but rather I have a man whose name has already been mentioned here, Armand Membu, offensive tackle out of Missouri. You would hope the Jets would learn that protecting the quarterback is vital. They have, obviously, Justin Fields coming in now. He's still young, and he is an experienced quarterback at this point. And to be fair, he played pretty decent in some of the games he started with the Steelers last year. So I think it's important for them to build up that O-line and protect him if they truly want to give him a chance at succeeding there in New York. So for that reason, I'm going to go Membu, offensive tackle.
I like where you guys are coming from, protecting the quarterback. I do wonder, though, I don't know if there's some offensive lineman fatigue there with the Jets. They've had a lot of offensive lineman picks that have not worked out. Mekhi Becton has gone elsewhere and done really well that they picked. So, I don't know. I think that they will. I think that is a very sound strategy, protecting the guy that they just paid a lot of money to play quarterback in an accelerated role than he's used to. So, I could definitely see it, but I guess me and Peter's beginning thoughts are on the same wavelength again, because I'm going to go with Jalen Walker, the edge, kind of outside linebacker out of Georgia. I think last year this Jets defense really disappointed. Myself, I don't know. I know Justin was very thrilled that they were allowing points at whim. But, I mean, this was a defense that was, just a few years ago, was one of the best in the entire league with Sauce Gardner, with the pressure. I think that they need some juice there. Again, there's been all the controversy about Rodgers with the offense, with such a disappointment that side of the ball has been. But that defense took a real step back last year, and I think you add an impact pass rusher with Walker in this spot right here.
And Cameron Whitney is along that McMillan wide receiver line, just to point that one out. But at the number 8 spot, we currently have the Carolina Panthers, and because he hasn't been taken yet, and because it's something they need, I have them taking edge rusher Jalen Walker out of Georgia as well.
I am going to go with a guy that Justin mentioned. This is where I think Tyler Warren will be selected. Here's the thing. We saw a little bit of a pickup in Bryce Young's performance near the end of the season. We saw the Carolina Panthers go from the dumpster fire of a team that they were to starting to show some signs of young life. Chuba Hubbard went off at the running back position. Tyler Warren is an all-around player. Tyler Warren can catch. He can run routes. He can plow through people. I mean, we all saw in Penn State, Tyler Warren is a dog. So, if you add that, I think that he could have a Brock Bowers-esque impact on the Panthers. I think that with a young quarterback who's starting to pick his feet up a little bit, so I'm going Tyler Warren here.
As you said, Pete, fantastic player Tyler Warren is, and it would be a great pick for the Panthers. However, I do not have him going there. I'm on the same wavelength as Justin here. I have them going defense, edge rusher, guy you and Jake both mentioned in the previous pick, Jalen Walker out of Georgia. I think at this point in the draft, he'll be the best edge rusher available, and I think the Panthers take him. Like you said, their offense was starting to pick up at the end of last season, but we all know, defense wins championships. You got to start building that defensive side up if you're Carolina, and I think this would be a good place to start here at number 8, taking Jalen Walker.
Nate and Justin, that is where you are wrong. I am with Peter. Peter and I are on the same side with this one. I have Tyler Warren going to the Panthers as well. Peter didn't mention his name, but you guys remember Greg Olsen? Do you remember how good prime Greg Olson was. I'm getting the visions. I'm getting the visions, ladies and gentlemen. A good young quarterback from the SEC. I know Bama, I know Auburn, Cam, and Bryce Young. I know Cam had a better start than Bryce Young to his career, but like Peter said, he really came on in those last few games. Dave Canales really got to him. He really took that benching well. You added Tyler Warren. I like the Brock Bowers comparison as well. You give him that jolt, that guy who's great on the blocking as well. I think that's a very underrated, that all of you, Nate, Sam, Justin, Peter, all you know, great blocker, great receiver. I think that this is a spot you add another weapon to that room for Carolina. So I'm going with Peter here. Let's see. Did Cam break a tie here? What's Cam thinking?
No,
Okay.
me and Nate were on one island. We're enjoying each other's company. Over old roommates were reminiscing. You two, you're over there on your own island. You're just having a good time. Cameron Whitney, he's rubbing sticks together on his own island. Cameron Whitney went in a completely different direction. He has Jahane Barron, the cornerback out of Texas, selected here for the Carolina Panthers. Yes, but as he's not here to explain, we will continue. So, at number 9, the New Orleans are selecting, and I have them taking cornerback Will Johnson out of Michigan. I believe that is probably their biggest concern at the moment, cornerback. They had added some depth with their free agency moves, but I think that they're going to need a real impact player, and we're looking at probably one of the best in the drafts in Will Johnson.
You mentioned the Saints needing a cornerback position. I do agree with that. However, very, very recently, something happened to the New Orleans Saints here. Derek Carr has a very serious shoulder injury that may impact his 2025-2026 season. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is where I have quarterback Shedeur Sanders landing. But I think that it just makes sense. I think that with the receiver room that the Saints currently have, I think that they can make a Shedeur Sanders selection work. I like. It just feels right to me. I don't know. It's one of those things that I'm trying to like really, really rationalize, but I can feel a Shedeur Sanders, New Orleans Saints.
This was kind of a 50-50 between both of the names mentioned, mainly because as I was throwing this together right before we began recording, I looked at 2 mock drafts and saw those 2 names. So I kind of just flip-flopped in my head, and I put down on paper Shedeur Sanders because I had not had him drafted yet, and I just don't think that he's going to fall that far down. He, in my mind, is clearly the second best quarterback in the draft. And as Peter mentioned, the injury issues with Derek Carr are there. And, I think this is a good chance for the Saints to do what Justin mentioned earlier, take a quarterback similar to what Atlanta did last year and, develop him. He doesn't have to start right away if they don't want him to, but he's got talent that you can mold and develop, and I think that taking him here and doing that potentially would be greatly beneficial to the organization. And I could see Shedeur as a potential franchise quarterback in the future. And like Peter said, they have some decent weapons there at the receiving position. So for that reason, I'm going to go Shedeur Sanders.
Nate is coming over to our hill, Justin. What do you have to say to that? No, I'm going with Shedeur Sanders as well. Nate and Peter laying out the mentions. Again, Justin, as Nate mentioned, brought it up earlier with the Falcons. And that just got me thinking, this division, I mean, look at the Panthers and Saints. They can make two picks that could really change the division. I know you don't, football, not a one player does not make, but these are 4 teams that are really dogfighting it out every single season. And you bring a guy in like a Warren, like a Jalen Walker. In our case here, the 3 of us bringing in a Shedeur Sanders. That's something that maybe not right away, but in a year or 2, that could really swing the tide for this division. I think Shador, this is a great spot for him. As you mentioned, the weapons, to even bring up Alvin Kamara, still there as a very good running back for a check down option, for a guy you can just hand it off and ask him to get you a certain amount of touches a game, an opportunity to learn. I know Drew Brees is still very active in the organization, even though he's no longer playing. No different play styles, of course, but having a mentor there like that he can ask for questions, of course, from his pops. I know Peter said he knows a lot about the game, and I know he does, but having an NFL great that is still down there and active with the team would be huge for him. So I have Shador Sanders going to the Saints as well.
But Cameron Whitney disagrees with everybody again. He has Malachi Starks, the safety out of Georgia, going to the Saints. Well, now we get to this is the pick I dreaded here. Number 10, the Chicago Bears, because I didn't know what they were gonna do. I was sitting here, I was like, man, if I was the Bears, I'd probably trade back. I don't know what I would pick, but if they are to make a selection, I have them taking edge rusher Shamar Stewart out of Texas A&M, because I think that he's a bit of an underrated talent, and I think that he would be a good addition for that D-line that could get at the quarterback a little better.
Justin, I like the position, but I disagree with the player. I think that they do go edge rusher, but I think they take Mykel Williams. I'm thinking defensively. I'm thinking Mykel Williams, Derek Harmon, but I'm also thinking, what about helping out the cornerbacks in the back and taking Jahade Barron? I hope I said his first name right, from Texas at the cornerback position. So I think my gut's telling me it's going to be Mykel Williams on the edge, but I wouldn't be surprised if we saw somebody from more of an interior D line or even in that cornerback spot. So I think the Bears go defense, but I think they focus up front and they go Mykel Williams.
Well, gentlemen, we find ourselves again debating between the same few mock drafts we all looked at. But I sided with Justin on this one. I also went with edge rusher Shamar Stewart from Texas A&M. As you said, Justin, the Bears, it's kind of hard to see where they go here. I think that defense is where they go, and just get another edge rusher to get more pressure on the quarterback. I think that's what they need. I mean, we all saw what happened against the Commanders last year, how they lost that game. So get some more pressure on the quarterback. That's what I say. Shamar Stewart, that's my pick.
All right, guys. You guys went on the defensive end. So you know where I'm going? You know where
he's going special teams, baby.
You know.
He's going special
exactly.
teams.
We are drafting the best kicker to the Bears. But in my draft, you guys already had him going number 6 to the Oakland Raiders, the Las Vegas Raiders, in fact. And I have Ashton Jeanty falling to 10 to the Chicago Bears. Walk with me, guys. Stand up. Stand up if you are. Walk with me. Ben Johnson coming from where? Detroit. You know what they had in Detroit? They had two great running backs. You know what they have there already? They have DeAndre Swift. I'm not the biggest DeAndre Swift fan. I think the Eagles' offensive line helped him out a ton when he was there, and he leaves a lot of yards on the board. You know a guy that's not going to leave a lot of yards on the board? Ashton Jeanty. I think that he adds another element to that offense with Caleb Williams coming into his second year. They have Roma Dunze. They have DJ Moore on the outside. Cole Kmet. You could even make an argument if Tyler Warren's still there. He's an interesting, weapon if they wanted to continue to add to that plethora. But you add an Ashton Jeanty, like a David Montgomery, who gives you that power back, a guy that can mix it up. If he is there, if he is still there, if he's not taken yet, like you said, Justin, a team that they have talent and they added in free agency, they added on the offensive line. I like their moves. They added a new head coach, bringing in new philosophies. So that's why I have Ashton Jeanty going here to the Bears.
All right, of course, the moment you wait for after every round, Cameron Whitney. Does anybody know the Microsoft sound that you hear when it says, like, there's an error?
Yeah,
That's what we're
Oh,
don't
getting.
yes, yes, yes.
That's
don't.
what we're getting right now because he only sent me a picture with 9 picks on it. So
Fair.
No, that's it. The draft stops after 9 picks. It's over.
he told me what it was when he was doing it, but I don't really remember. I think he said edge rusher, but I'm not sure. So we'll leave it at that for him. Let's move on to our favorite team selection here, where, of course, for me, it's the Buffalo Bills picking all the way up at number 30. A blessing and a curse, I'll tell you that much, as I'm sure Jacob and Peter know about. But to be up at 30, that means that we've got to wait a long time, and it means the person that we want is probably not going to be there. But if this person is there, I see the Bills selecting them, and if not, we're probably going to trade back. But that person is defensive tackle Kenneth Grant out of Michigan, the other half to the Michigan defensive tackle duo there. Still pretty good, not quite as good as Mason Graham, but he's still a viable option, somebody who can really be physical and stuff the run game.
If we're gonna stick with the hypothetical, they're gonna pick at the 32 spot. I think that the Eagles are going to go with Mike Green, the edge from Marshall, or Nick Emanowari from South Carolina. He's a safety. I think that having a younger safety in there would be nice, but I also know that when you win the Super Bowl, no matter who you are, every team's going to want your guys, right? So the Eagles lost some defensive players. So I think that the Eagles go with an edge guy if it's not the safety in Mike Green from Marshall.
All right, I'll keep it going with the birds at 32. I went in I guess a similar direction as Peter, but a different player. I'm gonna go with Donovan Ezeraku. I believe that's how you say it, from Boston College. Yes, defensive end. I do like the mindset, Peter, with replenishing on defense. I think that's the young talent is how you build the next 4-year $70 million edge rushers that go sign with the Cardinals. Josh Sweat talking about him, talking about, they brought back Zach Bond, but you mentioned C.J. Gardner-Johnson in the back end. Brandon Graham just retired. So I think, they're going to look edge. They're going to look to replenish the trenches, specifically on the outside. They still have some guys in the middle there. I think maybe they draft someone on the defensive interior in the later rounds, but I think edge here with Donovan Ezeraku. They could go with Green. I think Ezeraku may get picked above there, depending on how the draft falls, how the board falls. But I think edge should be where the Eagles look. I think offense, you've still got all of the talent there. I mean, offensive line, I feel like a lot of the bigger names would go off the board. And if Peter's saying they do trade up, maybe they go get an offensive lineman with some of these guys aging. But I think stand pat, you get an edge for that defense.
Sweet. Well, for me, near and dear to my heart, it's my Broncos, the Denver Broncos, who are selecting 20th in the upcoming draft. A lot to look forward to based on what we saw last season. As Denver fans, Bo Nix had a terrific rookie season, really came into his own under Sean Payton in that offense as the season progressed. And where I see Denver going is boosting that offense. The defense in Denver is solid, and we've already made a couple of offseason acquisitions with Trent Greenlaw and the safety's name from San Fran, who I can't pronounce or ever remember. But regardless, I think we're going offensive side of the ball. In Dreamland for me here, in Dreamland, that won't happen. I would love if 10 or 12 teams made the mistake of passing on Tyler Warren and letting him drop to Denver at 20. It's not realistic, though. I would love it. So, rather than go there, the more realistic option here is running back Omari Hampton out of North Carolina. Denver needs a running back. It's been an area of concern, I'd say, for the past few seasons now. It's just, a revolving door kind of in Denver right now. And I think going with Omari Hampton, who is, in my opinion, the second best running back available in the draft, and a guy who is ready for the NFL, as his body of work at North Carolina has showed. I think that would be very beneficial to have a young guy there behind Bo Nix who can take, the ball, who runs hard, and a guy you can also draw up some plays for in the passing game. So I think they go there, Amari Hampton. But like I said, in Dreamland, Nathan's hoping for Tyler Warren slipping and going there, but I don't think it'll happen. So Amari Hampton out of North Carolina is my pick.
Oh, man, another year of drafts in the books. I was talking with Justin as we wrap up here off camera. I added a little surprise pick and a little too high pick as well. Want to hear your thoughts, guys, as I was looking here. You mentioned him too, Loveland, the tight end out of Michigan. I think a team that you look at least in my eyes, the Colts at number 14. I think that's a place I think where he could really, I guess, maybe a surprise. I know there's a different areas that he's getting predict. I know, Peter, you said that there's one mock draft that had him over Warren. I wouldn't go that far, but I think that's a place I think that he could thrive in, that he could be a good target for Anthony Richardson, who, started to play better as the year progressed at the end, throwing the ball. So that's a surprise pick. I also a too high pick. I don't know if I'm not very sold on Will Johnson, the cornerback from Michigan. I don't know, just a feel thing. The Michigan defense, very good. I feel like he was, he has very good skills. I personally put Jahdae Barron over him. That's just me. So, I feel like he could go in that, 12, 13, 11 range. I think he's in that, but not as high as maybe some of you guys or others picked. So those are just some of my additional thoughts as well. Back to our point. Thank you for everyone for listening. That'll do it for this episode of the Lunch Hour Sports Podcast. We go in on these draft coverages, but this time around we really went in, guys. With less people, we hammered it out. So thank you everyone for listening to the episode. We really appreciate it. Check out more episodes on YouTube. We really appreciate it. Thank you for all the support, and thank you for listening to another episode of the Lunch Hours